Alright, so real quick before we move on, I want to put a little update here. I've been getting some feedback lately from students saying, hey, can I get a little bit more info on how to handle supplier invoices? So several folks that I've encountered, they will buy a large shipment from China, for example, and maybe a standard procedure is to put a 30% deposit down first and then pay a 70% later. So how do you handle that? Also, it's worth noting here that later on when we go into how to account for inventory, I'm going to be discussing tracking different inventory costs. For example, maybe breaking out your product manufacturing cost and freight if you use a manufacturer that bundles all of those services in together. Um, Bills are how you're going to end up breaking up these different inventory items. So what I've done is I've gone and created a sample bill for you, and you can see here Chinese supplier. And what I've done is I've just created a bill modeled after some kind of fake invoice sent from the supplier. And so I'll have the supplier's name plugged in, I'll put in a date and a due date and a reference. That's really pretty common. And what I've done is I've created two line items. So one, because what you'll see later on, I wanted to track inventory, two different types of inventory costs. So this is the product cost, which is a per unit kind of cost, and I've plugged that away to the primary inventory account. And then freight, I've categorized to a total different account called bulk inventory costs. And I don't want to go into too much detail here. You can learn about that in a later module, but these bills are great because not only can you do separate line items, but further on down when you need to reconcile, say, that 30% deposit, you'll have this bill plugged in to zero. And let's go over to the dashboard, to the reconcile screen, and I'm going to go ahead and click to reconcile items in the bank account. And what I've done is I have gone and navigated to, let's say, a wire transfer. So this is just an example, but let's say you have a $10,000 invoice from a supplier, you plug that into zero, and then you put $3,000 down as the first installment in the form of a wire transfer. So when you go to reconcile this wire transfer in your bank account, what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to click this Find and Match button, just like we did with the A2X invoices, but we're going to go find that bill. And let's go down Chinese supplier. And here's the thing, you're not paying the whole $10,000 bill, right? So you see at the bottom the total's out by 7 grand. What you'll notice is once you highlight this line item, you'll all of a sudden see this little split button. So it wasn't there until we checked it. Click this split button, and what it's going to do is it's going to apply a partial payment. So you're going to tell it, okay, it's going to default to be with a transaction amount. So $3,000 we're paying down. We'll hit split, and then we'll click reconcile. And when you do that, it's going to go and apply a partial payment to this bill. So I'll go and refresh it. And you can see now here there's a payment of $3,000 made on March 14th. So this is an important way, particularly if you have a lot of invoices from a lot of suppliers and you maybe want to be able to track how much you've paid, how much you still have outstanding. Bills is a great way to do this. Go plug in those bills, you'll see partial payments, and then when you go back into bills awaiting payment, you'll be able to see the Chinese supplier bill. You have $3,000 paid and you still have $7,000 due. So this is a real quick update how I recommend you handle supplier invoices. And just a little tip, if you get a lot of invoices and it's going to be really tedious for you to plug all of these invoices in, I'd recommend you check out a little tool called entrylist.com. and you can get a free account up to 300 bills a month, and what it does is it automates this process. So you'll drag and drop bills into entry list, and what entry list does is it takes a snapshot, or it analyzes pictures, it also analyzes PDFs for data, and it'll actually convert that PDF or picture into a bill within Xero. So this is a really cool tool to automate, especially if you have a lot of supplier invoices. I definitely recommend you check this out. But yeah, that's a wrap on supplier bills, and I'll see you in the next video.